Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has spoken with the NATO Secretary General about the ongoing situation in Iraq. This comes as Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan tells CTV's Power Play Canada was not made aware at all of the U.S. drone strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani.
This should not come as a surprise because the U.S. has indicated that they will take action. We didn't have the exact information for the event that took place, but when it comes to working as a coalition, we need to make sure that we send a very strong message of deterrence.
All right, let's get some analysis now with Jeff Hall, the director of the NATO Association of Canada. Jeff, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So if this Iranian situation, escalates, what is Canada's role going to be with NATO in Iraq? Given the fact that Trump, we don't really know how it's going to work out with the West and with Europe, right? In terms of a so-called coalition of the willing, because this has been 3 years of him discrediting NATO basically at every turn.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to separate what's rhetoric from Trump and what's reality that way. But in relation to the specific killing of the general, this is a gentleman that had been around for over 20 years, causing havoc across the Middle East. He's basically helping not only fund but train a lot of the proxies and militias that they have in areas like Syria, Yemen, and basically causing a lot of the terrorism. Actually, Iran is quite the piggy bank for a lot of the terrorism that's out there. So I can understand why they did it, but really what we don't know right now, because the U.S. did this on their own, is why him, why now specifically? And that's some of the questions we still have.
Well, yeah, that kind of goes back to, it distills down to the concerns and criticisms about selective use of intelligence, because, the Trump administration, when it comes to Russia and other parts of the world, they discredit what's coming from their own intelligence agencies. But when it came to what was the intel on this guy, let's go with it right away.
Yeah, I'd say that, again, what Trump says in the media and on when his Twitter thumbs are going in the middle of the night aren't necessarily what his actual intelligence agencies are actually seeing. So in the end, it's going to be what the intelligence agencies see. And when there's actionable intel to act on, that's when they will choose to strike or not. And this was, again, a decision made just by the U.S., not part of NATO overall. It was a strike right from the White House down.
Okay, let's do more to sort of parse words and action.
No.
Now, America's role as an honest broker and a peace broker in the Middle East is kind of on the line here, right? The Trump doctrine that he expressed during the campaign was, I want to get out of these endless wars. No more blood and treasure. So he kind of does that in a few actions, pulls out of the Iran nuclear deal, pulls troops out of northern Turkey, it kind of abandons the Kurds. That's a whole separate thing. But in a way that helps to reconstitute ISIS. And this general, wasn't he kind of a frenemy that was helping to control the ISIS problem? So either this is whack-a-mole administration and diplomacy as far as I see it, or there's some 3D chess that Trump's playing that I just don't get.
Yeah, again, they have their own intel and actions that they're doing specifically, but Canada's got a different role that's there actually. There's about 900 troops throughout kind of the Middle East. About 500 are specifically inside of Iraq, and their main role through Operation Impact is really there to help train the Iraqis to make sure ISIS does not reorganize. And you made a really good comment there. One thing Iran was doing there is they were actually trying to hold back and kill ISIS as well. So it was kind of like, even though Iran's the biggest enemy of the Middle East and quite the United States obviously as well, they were also battling a common enemy in ISIS there.
Should we take any signals from what we've seen from some of the other allies, the Germans, what they've been doing in terms of reorganizing, restructuring their forces there?
Yeah, overall, again, what we really want to do is we want to have the Middle East be able to take care of itself more and more. We want to provide the training, some of the equipment they need. We want the people there to step up. Iraq's been through war and war again, and we really have to retrain the people there. We have to give them what they need to be able to stand up for themselves and suppress those insurgents and suppress things like ISIS if they attempt to reorganize there, as an example. The Iranian strike, again, we don't know the whole details behind what happened there, but again, that person was the chief architect of a lot of the strife going all through the Middle East over the years, and agitating everyone from Israel to Saudi Arabia and others as well.
It's no secret that the theocracy in Iran has been losing some of its grip on especially the younger generation. It seems, though, that there's a lot of, is this just a short-term rally in terms of solidarity behind the government, once again vilifying the ugly Americans and that whole ethos?
Yeah, well, that's been a common sport there, is to point the finger at the Americans, right? Death to America is chanted daily, pretty much there. Again, what you're seeing from certain videotapes inside of Iran may not be the whole story, but you did catch on to some. There's a lot of young people in Iran. It's a very young society, and it's a society that really wants to be part of the world. And a lot of the citizens of Iran are great people. It's a democracy, and they're really tired of having these mullahs and the Ayatollahs spending all this money on just fighting militias and funding proxies and all these terror groups that are out there to try to cause damage to other neighbors in their neighborhood, you could say, as an example. So really, the citizens there want to see money spent on themselves, building infrastructure, building their economy, maybe reaching out and being part more of the world community. And again, these certain religious leaders at the top are really just focused on terror, death to America, death to Israel. And it's unfortunate.
Last thing, Jeff, how much will the NATO forces be focusing on sort of the fifth domain here, not land, air, sea, space, but cyberspace in terms of where the fronts on which any future aggression and conflict might be fought?
Well, it's interesting, actually. NATO has actually added cyber and even space to an extent as part of their Article 5. So an attack on one is an attack on all. And nobody's talking about it right now, but there's already been some cyber attacks happening from Iran. They actually are fairly resilient and fairly capable in Iran in relation to cyber attacks in that cyber sphere. And you're going to see more and more of that. We've already seen some denial of service attacks here in the United States, as an example, after the attack. But you're going to see more of that in the future, and it'll continue to go on and on. But that's really where the real war is being fought. It's in the shadows in cyber.
Jeff, fascinating chat. Thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure.